Hello, my friends. Welcome to Thirsty for Art. And today I'm going to be talking about how we have kind of lost touch with our inner artist inside each of us. My name is Yu Jung, and I make videos about art therapy and the art therapist career. And I'm so excited to talk about this topic today because this is something that I hear and I see so often when I do art therapy with people. And I just want to, really help you understand and share with you what is really behind this disconnect between our creative side and who we are, and share a little bit about what can we do about it. So I don't know if you know, but Pablo Picasso, the very famous artist, once said that every child is born an artist, but the problem is how to remain an artist once he or she grows up. So that is the core of what we're trying to talk about today. I think that we all are born creative. We have this ability to express ourselves. And if you remember when you were little or when you look at kids, they naturally just go for art. They don't hesitate even a second in making art. If you give them paint, they'll go crazy. So we are born with this ability to just express ourselves creatively. But when we grow up and when we become adults, we have lost that kind of creative side to us. We no longer make art. We no longer express ourselves in different ways. We become more analytical, we become more verbal and word oriented, and we're more logical, and we become more calculating. We plan things out, we do not take risks that much, we play it safe, right? So we kind of lose touch with that kind of childlike self, our inner child, our inner little artist inside of us. And you can say we've become more mature as we grow up and become adults. But maybe you can say we also become more dry and less creative. So, what happened to us? What happened when we grew up? Why did we become this way? So, as we're growing up, we have learned a lot of things along the way, and one thing that we have learned is to limit our expression. We have learned that certain expressions are not okay for us to engage in, and we have to be a certain way. We learned that some things were good and some things were not so good to express, and we use this standard or rule to measure ourselves and see whether we are good enough or not. We start to believe that in order to be good enough, we have to be creative, we have to be perfect, we have to create this masterpiece. If not, we would see ourselves unworthy, we would see ourselves not good enough, not artistic enough, not creative enough. And usually these expectations and rules or standards we have of ourselves in terms of making art and in terms of many different aspects of our lives, these standards are very unrealistic if you think about it. We when we make art, maybe we're trying to just make a very quick drawing, and we actually expect ourselves to make Van Gogh worthy masterpieces from these 20-minute drawings. And that's pretty unrealistic, and that's a very, very high expectation that we put on ourselves. It's almost like expecting ourselves to be like a chef when we're just kind of cooking for ourselves just to have a meal, or expecting us to be a triathlete when we're just trying to ride a bike around the neighborhood. So it's the same thing with art. We expect ourselves to create this like perfect work and these really awe-inspiring artworks, when we're just trying to kind of just express ourselves, to draw and experiment with materials or paint. So these are pretty high perfectionistic and unrealistic standards we have of ourselves. And sometimes we don't even know it, but if you really dig deep, these are the expectations that we have. We are not really born with these expectations and standards and rules, right? If you look at kids, they don't have these expectations of themselves. Um, so we have kind of learned this from other people. We have gotten this from other people and our environment. So maybe we have kind of received that kind of message from our teachers, maybe in classes, maybe in schools, perhaps in TVs, or even our friends or family, or even at museums. So these are some things that we have kind of adopted um, in our own life unknowingly most of the time. And so when we have these kinds of beliefs, these kinds of expectations about ourselves and about our artwork, we really limit ourselves. We really limit our expressions and what we can do. And we tend to become less intuitive, less spontaneous. We become more rigid, and we become very afraid of even making a mark on the paper, even starting something of our own. So we stop trusting ourselves and we stop just being ourselves. We're not really letting ourselves be who we are and just accepting ourselves as we are. We have sort of let our own inner child or inner creative self to kind of just be quiet, and we have kind of confined them in a little prison inside of us. We have disconnected ourselves from that creative side that we are all born with. So the problem is that this is something that we think is almost like a fact. Like, okay, I'm not an artist, I'm not creative. These beliefs become almost facts to us, but they are really not facts. They are just a belief that we believe ourselves. Because we have this kind of fear, because we have these expectations on ourselves, and we believe that we cannot meet those expectations, those unrealistic expectations, we hesitate and we become afraid to even try out things. And so we don't touch art, we don't take upon those opportunities where we can be creative and expressive. And when we are like that, we kind of explain ourselves like, okay, I'm not an artist, I'm not creative, that's why I don't make things like that, or that's why I don't do art. But that is just a justification. That is just a belief about what we are capable of. If you believe that you are creative, if you believe that you are artistic, then you are. And if you don't, then that is a belief, but it's not a fact. But you do have to remember that we are all born creative. We are all born with the ability to express ourselves in different ways. And if you think about it, art is just another way that we express ourselves. Like, words and talking is one way to express ourselves, but art is another way to express ourselves, and it's just a more visual and nonverbal way of doing that. Nonverbal and visual way of communicating ourselves is actually more innate to us, more natural to us. If you think about it, when we are born, even before we have the ability to speak, we can understand visual language, we can communicate non-verbally, and we can make art. So it's funny how that works. We're all born creative, but we kind of believe that we're not in some way. So how do we actually address this? How do we actually change this belief about ourselves? That's the important part, because once we believe that we are creative and expressive, then we don't have any limitations to what we can do and create. So the first thing that you can do to change your belief is to let go of that label of creative or of being artistic or an artist. Letting go of that label is the most important thing that you can do. Because we hold on to these labels, we stop ourselves from going further, stop ourselves in our actions. These are really arbitrary labels that we cannot use um, objective standards to measure everybody. So each of us can have different definitions about being creative, being artistic, but I think the trap is, if we even if we do have that definition and standard for measuring someone based on their artistic ability or creative ability, even if we have that standard, it's going to be limiting. The fact that you have this standard, this definition, means that there are other people who are not creative, but the truth is everybody is creative in their own way. So we really have to kind of release and let go of this label in order for us to even have this possibility, or even open up to the possibility that we can create. And the second thing that you can do to change your belief is to try not to prove yourself anything when you're making art. So when we're making art, we tend to get in a rut and we become more perfectionistic and very fearful of creating when we want to try to prove something. But if you let go of the need to prove anything, then creating art and expressing yourself can be so fun and so liberating and expressive. You don't have to worry about the results. You don't have to worry how it will look like, and you're just in the process, and you're really enjoying yourself in the process. You're curious what will come out. You can think of making art as not a way to prove yourself anything, but to just express yourself. Have that goal of not making a certain product or result with the art, but instead really focusing on just expressing who you are, like what's going on right now with you, or what thoughts you're having, how you're feeling right now. Then you can easily kind of let go of that need to prove yourself and really tap into that creative side in you. And the last thing that can really help us is to accept ourselves more. So even if you make art and you feel like this is not good enough, or you feel very judgmental, if you feel very negative about your artwork and how it came out, practice accepting that artwork and practice accepting yourself, like how you're feeling and what thoughts are coming up for you. Because the more that you create art and the more that you accept yourself and your artwork, the more that you will be creative, and the more that you will be confident in making art and not worry too much. So I think the biggest fear that we have is us feeling not good about the work that we created. And the way to combat that, the way to resolve that, is to accept those thoughts and feelings. So this is a practice of mindfulness, essentially being very mindful of all the judgments and thoughts that are coming up for you, and allowing them to be there. It's not like you are believing all of that, all the thoughts and negative feelings that are coming up, but you're just accepting the reality that these are coming up for you. And when you accept those thoughts and feelings, then you are accepting yourself in the process. You are accepting more of the artwork itself too. And I think that we lose sight of this relationship between us and the artwork a lot of times when we become judgmental. But when we practice acceptance, it's really nurturing that relationship between our artwork and the artist ourselves. So that relationship is very important, and being aware that there is that relationship first is very important. But also we need to kind of realize that yes, there is a relationship, and we need to nurture that relationship, and we need to have a little bit of more compassionate and kinder relationship. So accepting our work, accepting ourselves, accepting our thoughts and feelings is a way to really nurture and have a more positive relationship between our art and ourselves. And when we have that positive relationship, then we become more open to making art. We become more creative. We become more expressive, and we connect with that inner child and inner creative ability. So that's one tip that's going to really help you tap into that inner creative side and turn around that belief, perhaps a negative belief about your abilities and about your artwork. So I hope this was very helpful for you. This is a topic that I can go on and about, but I do want to hear from you all. So leave me a comment below if you have this kind of struggle when you're making art, or if you have this fear of making art, or if this resonates with you at all. Let me know in the comments, and I will love to hear your thoughts and I'll reply to them. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed this. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel for more art therapy videos every week. So thank you so much. I'll see you next time. Bye.